the FBI just launched a civil rights investigation into a deadly church shooting in Tennessee. Now, the masked gunman opened fire just as Sunday services ended.
President Trump has signed a proclamation implementing travel restrictions on 8 countries. Some of the affected countries include North Korea now and Venezuela, as well as 6 others across the Middle East and Africa.
2 possible blows to the Graham-Cassidy health care bill coming from Senator Ted Cruz in Texas and Maine Senator Susan Collins.
Right now, they don't have my vote, and I don't think they have Mike Lee's either.
With our country waking up more divided than ever, more than 200 NFL players took a knee or raised their fist during our national anthem.
Yeah, the protest in response to President Trump calling for coaches to punish players who refuse to stand for the American flag.
This has nothing to do with race. This has to do with respect for our country and respect for our flag.
Former Army Ranger Alejandro Villanueva was the only Pittsburgh Steeler to come out of the locker room before their game against the Chicago Bears.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Studio F on a beautiful Monday here in New York City. Thank you for joining us. You're watching the world's #1 cable morning news show, thanks to folks like you.
Yes, thank you. I hope you had a great weekend. Did you guys?
It was very interesting. Of course, the president's remarks on Friday led to a very interesting weekend as we talk about what happened in the NFL as well as with North Korea and what's going on. I'm constantly amazed at the velocity of stories and intensity of news every single day. We have not had one day where you thought to yourself, let's just review. It's always, oh my goodness, look where we're heading.
And you know why that's great? Because we're a news channel. And we've got it all here this morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
There was also, we talked about that church shooting. Remember, what was it, 2 years ago in Charleston? Well, there was another one over the weekend. Straight to this Fox News alert. The FBI launching a civil rights investigation into a deadly church shooting in Tennessee.
The masked gunman, an immigrant now, we're learning from the country of Sudan, opened fire just as the services ended. An armed usher now being hailed as a hero because he stopped him.
And when this happened, Jillian Milley went quickly down there to Tennessee, Antioch, Tennessee. Hey, Jillian.
Hey, guys, that's right. Good morning. We landed in Nashville about 9 o'clock local time last night, and once we got off the plane, we immediately came here to the church, the Burnett Chapel Church, where this happened yesterday morning around 11 a.m., and police were still out here last night when we got here, wrapping up their investigation on scene. Actually, just as we pulled up, they were towing away the gunman's vehicle. Police told us that was his vehicle, so they were getting that out of here and getting ready to open up the scene once again, which, by the way, is open this morning. But if you take a look at some video from yesterday when this all happened, when 39-year-old Melanie Smith was shot and killed around 11 o'clock yesterday morning, just as she left church services. 6 others were injured inside the church. I want to tell you what we know about the shooter right now. His name is Emmanuel Samsom. He is a 25-year-old. As you guys mentioned, he's a legal U.S. resident, but we learned that he did move here from Sudan in 1996. Now, parishioners from this church, we actually talked to one last night. She told us that he used to come to services here years ago, but that people haven't seen him in a while, and they say they certainly didn't recognize him yesterday since he was wearing a mask. Right now, he is in police custody and is charged with murder. Out of this tragedy, we are already hearing stories of heroism. 2 people, to be exact. Number 1, the pastor, the woman we were talking to last night on the scene. She was in the church when this happened. She told me that the pastor saved her life. She said once the gunman came into the church, the pastor shouted, "Run, everybody, get out of here." He yelled just to make sure everybody knew what was going on. Try and clear as many people out as possible. The other hero that everyone is talking about this morning is a 22-year-old. He is an usher at the church. His name is Robert Engel. Here's what we're told happened. He got into an altercation inside the church with the gunman. Somehow during that altercation, the gunman was shot. Robert Engel actually ran out of the church into the parking lot to his car where he had a gun in his car. He came back and held that gunman at gunpoint until police got to the scene. People crediting those 2 men for saving their lives, and a 10-year-old boy could not contain his emotions. Watch.
Just heard like 3 gunshots, and the little girl shut the door, and I heard somebody say, "Get down." When I realized they were alive, I just started like pouring out crying, and that's like, I know I'm 10, and I'm supposed to be tough, but I just couldn't hold in.
Tough to hear from such a young person who witnessed this tragedy. By the way, the FBI has opened a civil rights investigation. Guys.
All right, Jillian, we thank you very much. It was Friday night. If you were watching the channel, you saw the President of the United States. He was down in Alabama for a rally for Luther Strange. There's a special election tomorrow. He's standing off against Judge Moore, and it's really close. Anyway, the President of the United States, in a wide-ranging chat, at one point said, you know, if any NFL player takes a knee during the national anthem, they should get that blank off the field right now. Well, that's when it really started to hit the fan. And the next morning, the president was on Twitter all day long defending his stand that to be patriotic in this country, you should stand up during the national anthem.
Well, yesterday I got a news alert on my phone saying Ravens-Jaguars game has begun. It was over in London. That was the first game yesterday, and said that the team took a knee, as you can see, hands on their heart, all in solidarity, just protesting this president.
But then they stood for God Save the Queen in their national anthem. There's and then you had protesters, different people singing the national anthem. A couple took knees, which is unbelievable. If you have to take a knee during the national anthem, just pass to the next person. But no question. I think personally, I've been out front saying how outrageous I think taking a knee during the national anthem from Colin Kaepernick in there. As you guys know, from day one. Because even if you're outspoken in sports, it's no problem. Muhammad Ali, outspoken. Charles Barkley, outspoken. Curt Schilling, outspoken. No one has any problem with, they have an opinion, but they don't have a problem with people speaking out. In fact, a lot of times, they get broadcasting contracts. Like Richard Sherman, when he talked about mediocre, he's got to get the biggest broadcasting contract when he's done playing for the Seahawks.
But you're saying there's a time and a place?
But with the president, and I understand his sentiment, made things so much worse. And the language he used was terrible. When you have Robert Kraft coming out against you, you know you've gone too far. Robert Kraft spends time in the Lincoln bedroom. He's friends with President Trump beyond their wealth and their riches and their circles. He made things immeasurably worse by speaking out. And I know what his intention was, but the language used was just... It was galvanizing the wrong direction.
Well, Brian, he is the voice for a lot of people out there. A lot of people agree with him and are scared to give their opinions. I'm not saying I agree with what he's saying. I'm just saying there are a handful of people out there, Brian, that really feel like he's their voice.
But do you think he said that? You think it was appropriate?
Clearly what the president did was, and I've read this on an op-ed page, it said President Trump has taken the side of the flag and the anthem and has provoked millionaire athletes to oppose the symbols of patriotism, like the national anthem. Yesterday, the president, en route to Washington after a weekend in New Jersey and before that in Alabama, he made it very clear out at the airport, spoke to the White House poolers, said this is not about race. This is about patriotism. Watch this.
I think it's very disrespectful to our flag and to our country. So I certainly think the owners should do something about it. There was great solidarity. I watched a little bit, and I will say that there was tremendous solidarity for our flag and for our country. I think it's very disrespectful to our country. I think it's very, very disrespectful to our flag. We have a great country. We have great people representing our country, especially our soldiers, our first responders, and they should be treated with respect. And when you get on your knee and you don't respect the American flag or the anthem, that's not being treated with respect. This has nothing to do with race. I've never said anything about race. This has nothing to do with race or anything else. This has to do with respect for our country and respect for our flag.
And I know everyone's bringing up to that race because the NFL is 70% black. And then the same show, he also, the next day, he brought up the fact that Steph Curry's not coming here, was thinking about not going to the White House, or wasn't going to the White House, so he says the invitation's rescinded. So that made things worse. People say, well, the NBA is 80% black and the NFL is 70% black. I guess it's about race. But anyone who knows this president knows he's not about race. However, the perception was let out there because it wasn't pre-thought how he was saying it. The other thing is about the NFL. My goodness, for 9/11, people wore symbols on their red, white, and blue on their cleats, and they got fined or they got threatened to be fined. You can't wear something across your headband that the NFL doesn't sanction. I am shocked over a year later they have not addressed this with the players' union, so it didn't even get to this point.
It's just sad when these guys are millions billionaires, and they're protesting the president in this way. This is the red, white, and blue. This is America. I wish they would find a different way to protest. I'm glad that it's not violent. I'm glad that it's peaceful. I understand that our men and women who fought for this great country and fought for the flag did it so that they have the right to do that. But we're asking men and women who are paid $20,000 a year to go over to different countries and sacrifice their lives so that we can enjoy football, so we can spend our Sundays at these football games. And I guarantee we're going to see people give up their season tickets.
Well, we'll see. There was a lot of booing when a lot of the players did take a knee during the anthem yesterday.
In Buffalo and New England.
In a number of different cities. But there was one, and apparently the Steelers decided what they would do is the team would stay in the locker room for the national anthem. That way they wouldn't get booed, and that way officially they wouldn't have a picture of everybody taking a knee if that was the case. However, that was not what 28-year-old former Army Ranger Alejandro Villanueva did. He became an instant hero. He was the only Steeler to actually come out of the tunnel and stand in that area between the tunnel and also the field. If you missed it, here he is, and you can hear the anthem in the background.
Pittsburgh Steelers as a team.
And there comes the team.
Right. Mike Tomlin
became a hero to the people who think that the players should stand for the national anthem. Go ahead.
Right. And Mike, by the way, he had 3 tours in Afghanistan. He's coming out of the locker room, believe me. Mike Tomlin says, I want the team to stay together. I'm disappointed the whole team didn't stay together.
That's the coach of the Steelers.
I cannot believe that he actually weighed in on this. Listen.
We're not going to let divisive times or divisive individuals affect our agenda. We're not going to play politics with football players, with football coaches. We're not participating in the anthem today. Not to be disrespectful to the anthem, to remove ourselves from this circumstance.
By the way, that former Army Ranger, his jersey rocketed to the top 5 of all jerseys sold in America yesterday.
He played, oh really? That's great. He played at the military academy, and he won the Bronze Star Medal of Valor. He's an offensive tackle for
and
the
now
Steelers.
it's spread to baseball. Bruce Maxwell, catcher with the A's, took a knee. The LA Sparks, the WNBA, are in the finals. They refused to come out of the locker room during the game. And probably the worst display I've seen is LaShawn McCoy of the Buffalo Bills stretched the entire time the national anthem was taking place.
So whose side do you come down on, the president or the protesters? Email us, friends at foxnews.com. You can tweet us or Facebook. Meanwhile, coming up on this Monday, ISIS has a new target, Prince Harry. The disturbing message from that terror group coming up.
And our next guest knows a little something about sacrifice. He has a message for those anthem protesters. Johnny Joey Jones lost both of his legs in Afghanistan, and you won't want to miss what he has to say.
This is our country.
All right, here we are. During Football Sunday yesterday, a day that's supposed to be about football instead became about politics. NFL players and some team owners joining a national anthem protest. Some took a knee, others sat, others stretched, some locked arms and even skipped the anthem altogether. So what is it about sacrifice that some athletes feel as though the best way to show it is to take a knee or not participate? Let's bring in Johnny Joey Jones, who spent last Monday, who lost both his legs, by the way, while he was trying to defuse a bomb in Afghanistan. But you spent last week with the Cincinnati Bengals, not knowing the president was going to say what he said. What was your message to them?
Well, you know, over a year ago, I tweeted Colin Kaepernick and said, listen, I don't have legs, but I'll stand with enough pride for both of us when they play our national anthem. And that didn't go away. It went viral. So when I went up to Cincinnati to work with the Bengals on teamwork and leadership and brotherhood last Monday, that was the first thing I addressed with them. And I said, you know, quite frankly, you know, if you're in this room and you took a knee, I love you. I love you because I share this country with you, and the purest form of patriotism is to love the strangers you see on the street just because we share this country together. And someone from the back said, no one on this team is taking a knee. And that meant a lot to me. That showed me that they really heard what I was saying, and they understand the true meaning of the flag, the national anthem, and everything else this country stands for. You know, they took it to overtime last night, and they'll get the next one.
Right, and you know they did have their best game of the year last night, even though they fell short. But then you're going to be speaking again to the Ravens this week. What's your message to the Ravens after they go over to Wembley, took a knee, and got crushed?
Same thing. Listen, I would stand in front of every man kneeling on the NFL and give that man a hug and ask that man to stand with me and stand for me, because I will stand for him. I'll stand for what he cares about, but more importantly, I'll stand for the fact that this country is a place you can protest, and that's all the reason you need to take a stand and respect this country.
Am I right, Johnny, that one of the things is protests, but the thing that makes it different is it's about the flag and the anthem? It's like protesting your own family instead of going inside and making it better.
You know, the way I look at it, I don't know what it's like to be a 25-year-old black man on the streets of any city in this country and be discriminated against. But no one in the NFL, other than Alejandro Villanueva, really knows what it's like to be a 25-year-old American in the middle of a country where everyone wants to kill you. So we all have things to learn from each other. We all need to hear each other out. Right. Most importantly, we all need to try and love each other, and we need to stand together. There were a few teams yesterday that locked arms and stood in unison, and that's what we need to talk about.
And Johnny, lastly, you understand the president's sentiment, obviously. That's what you're speaking about, but you didn't like the language.
No, listen, I don't call names to the Taliban that took my legs. They don't deserve that from me, and the honor I learned in the Marine Corps keeps me above that. Everyone I think I don't like, I may actually care about one day. I may actually get to know one day, and they may change my mind. So I'm not going to throw names out there at people that I don't even know yet, because I want to know them. I want to know what's on their mind, and I want to convince them to be on my side. My biggest argument against Colin Kaepernick, after speaking to him, was that his actions were drawing a line in the sand and dividing people that otherwise might actually come together. Right. And I think throwing names out there like the president did the same thing. I understand the sentiment, just like I started to understand Colin, but I don't believe that's how you do it in either case.
Okay. Thanks so much, Johnny. Of course, any team would benefit from having you speak. I look forward to hearing what the Ravens say. Thanks so much. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio knows what happened to Hillary Clinton. You got to hear this. And 5 Senate holdouts are putting repeal and replace on life support. Is there any way to get them on board? We're going to ask Congressman Louis Gohmert. Got up early for us.
President Trump signing off on brand new travel restrictions that applies to travelers from 8 countries instead of just 6. The updated restrictions differ by nation based on its cooperation with the United States, and security include targeted limits on foreign nationals, and North Korea, Venezuela, and Chad are now a part of the restrictions that go into effect on October the 18th. Joining us right now to discuss is Texas Congressman and a member of the House Judiciary Committee, Louis Gohmert. Congressman, good morning to you.
Always great to be with you.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
All right, you know, the courts have been involved in this extensively. Now the president's come out with
unconstitutionally, by the way. They don't have that authority under Article 3, but they hadn't let the Constitution get in their way of legislating.
What do you think of the new restrictions on travelers?
I think they're great. I think they're very well spoken, and they articulate the reasons as to why they designated the 8 countries. You know, for example, Venezuela and Chad and I mean, these all 8 countries are countries where, as the FBI representatives have testified before our committee, yes, you always hear that we will vet the refugees, but you got to understand, when we don't have any information from that country, the process of vetting is taking the information the individual gives us and comparing it to what we have from the country. We'll vet it, but we don't have any information from those countries. So I think the president's doing exactly what he should be doing. He's protecting America because we don't know who these people are.
This is what he ran on. He was talking about extreme vetting.
I love it when somebody gets elected that actually keeps their word. It's awesome.
It's so unusual for some people in Washington these days, particularly when it comes, Louis, to health care.
Yes.
And there were so many Republicans in the Senate who said, you know, give me a chance, re-elect me.
Hey, listen,
and now it looks like this is DOA.
Oh, I was out there in Arizona last year, and frankly, I think Dr. Kelly Ward would have won if, well, of course, the president came out and endorsed John McCain, a rare mistake.
Now McCain is saying no.
Yeah, well, he is one of those that said, I will repeal. If he had said last year what he was going to do, Kelly Ward would have beat him. and Kirkpatrick would have beat him. But, you know, nothing inhibits recovery from cancer like stress. I think Arizona could help him and us, recall him, let him, you know, fight successfully this terrible cancer, and let's get somebody in here who will keep the word he gave last year.
Say that again. What are you suggesting? He be recalled?
I think it would be very helpful
because
to him
this.
And the country. He's got cancer. It's a tough battle, but stress is a real inhibitor toward getting over cancer. So let him go back, deal with the cancer, let Arizona recall him so that we can get somebody that will keep his word from last year.
He says, among other things, he would like this to be in regular order.
Bipartisan. Right. He wants bipartisan.
What's the matter with that?
Nothing's wrong with it, but the problem is the Democrats will not allow any repeal of anything in Obamacare to be bipartisan. I mean, they really put the pressure on their people. Don't you dare support the Republicans at all, because there are a few that would like to be with us, but the pressure is immense. So we're not the ones keeping it from being bipartisan. It goes back to Henry Waxman passing it. He said, we don't need Republican votes. We don't want your input. And actually, as Joe Barton told me, he said if John Dingell had still, I mean, John is quite liberal when it comes to health care, but he's a very honest, honorable man. If he had stayed as chairman, he would have gotten Republican input. It would have been bipartisan, but they didn't do it bipartisan, and they are not going to allow us to have any Democratic votes to repeal what needs doing.
Louis, I got a feeling you're going to take heat for that comment about him getting recalled.
Look, the reason I say that, I was down in Lufkin at the Forest Fair, East Texas Fair, all over East Texas. People are hurting, and there are people who have diseases, and they lost their doctor, they lost their insurance.
And Obamacare's not working for them?
And they're begging, please, you've got to repeal this. You've got to give me some help. Others saying, I lost my job because of Obamacare. Right. And one employer said, I'm struggling. He said, I went from $50,000 a year to $150,000 in 2 years. I can't stay in business with these kind of increases. My employees will lose their jobs. There are people hurting. So there are people that have cancer, that have heart problems, just like John McCain, and they need help, and he is blocking them from getting the help that they need for their lives.
All right. Louis Gohmert, thank you very much for dropping by.
Thank you. And by the way, the president's got to appoint a second special counsel to investigate Mueller, Comey, Lynch, and the Clintons. He's got to. Nobody else can do it.
Why does he have to?
Because nobody else can do it. And
why do you need another investigator? Because
Comey, we've now found out, he lied more than we even thought. We know that Mueller was his confidant. By law, Mueller is disqualified from investigating Comey. We have got to have a second special prosecutor to investigate. And Jeff Sessions recused himself from anything touching Russia. Well, the Clintons touched Russia. So only the president is going to be able to make that appointment. He's got to do that for the sake of the country.
But if he does that, that's going to be a bigger story. It's going to be he's trying to get rid of Mueller.
It would have been better if he could have fired Mueller. But the very day Comey testified that there is no collusion between Trump and the Russians, that was a day that Mueller realized, oh my gosh, I don't have a basis for being here. So he leaked out that very day, I'm now investigating Trump for obstruction, just so that Trump couldn't fire him and he could keep his job. Comey and Mueller colluded to get a special counsel. We've got to have a special counsel to investigate Comey's lies, and Mueller can't do it. He's disqualified. We've got to have a second special counsel.
Well, let's see what happens. All right, Louis, thank you very much.
Always great to be with you, my friend. Thank you.
So what do you think about what Louis just said? Email us, friends@foxnews.com, or you could tweet us or Facebook. I got a feeling we're going to get a lot of comments. Meanwhile, I bet you've been eagerly awaiting Hollywood's take on the national anthem protests, right?
This anthem thing is a scam. This is not actually part of football. This was invented in 2009 as from the government paying the NFL to market military recruitment.
He said a scam. Well, we're going to dig into that with Pete Hegseth coming up next. Plus, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio knows what happened to Hillary. His theory, you got to hear it, coming up next.
This anthem thing is a scam. This is not actually part of football. This was invented in 2009 as from the government paying the NFL to market military recruitment, to get more people to go off and fight wars to die. This has nothing to do with NFL or American pastime or tradition. This is to get boys and girls to go fly overseas and go kill people.
So that's Jesse Williams. He's the actor from Grey's Anatomy. He's also an activist, and he's talking about in 2009 the government teamed up with the military to start playing the national anthem, and all the players started coming onto the field because they used to be in the locker rooms before that. So, Pete, you served our military.
Yeah, it's that pesky scam anthem that got me to sign on the dotted line and join that military and go overseas and fight in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, an actor like Jesse Williams and his comments are insignificant to the vast majority of Americans. And also the anchor there at MSNBC was like, great point, excellent analysis. We should have you back to talk more about this subject. It went on for a minute where he said, this anthem is a scam. This is all a ploy to get people to go fight and die because they're worthless, scraps of people in this country who fight for a cause that's not worth fighting for. It was embarrassing.
But you know where this whole thing is heading? They're going to stop playing the anthem before games. I guarantee it.
No, I think you're right. It's
like maybe by the time the NBA season starts.
Do you remember when the president said, what's next? The Washington Monument on that aspect? What's next? The national anthem? Because you saw the Pittsburgh Steelers and a few teams say, we're just going to stay inside for the anthem. Well, if that becomes the medium, then why not just remove it altogether or keep the teams inside altogether? It would be an amazing and unfortunate development. But it's what we're litigating right now, guys. It is. It's do we stand for the anthem or not? This is why I love what President Trump said. I don't care if he used a bad word or not. He's speaking for a lot of Americans that say, stand up. You play a game for a living. Get up and salute your flag.
And a number of people did agree with the president because there was a lot of booing yesterday in certain cities when the players took a knee. You were outside of MetLife Stadium, just across the river in New Jersey.
Jets were playing the Dolphins yesterday. We went out to a tailgate to let's ask the fans, what do they think? Because ultimately the president's saying, hey, if you don't like them not standing for the anthem, don't go to the game. We asked the fans who were going to the game yesterday. Take a listen.
If you walk into this stadium today and a good number of Jet players decided to take a knee and protest the national anthem, how would you feel about that?
I would be embarrassed. I'm dead against that. I'm a veteran, so the Marine Corps years, and I'm dead against that.
It would be a disgrace. It's unethical for them to do that.
I'll still root for the Jets. I won't agree with what they do, but I'm still going to root for the Jets.
I would be disappointed if they did that.
I think a nonviolent protest is absolutely the way to go.
Do you support what President Trump said when he said, hey, if these owners, if these guys want to kneel for the anthem, then the owners should be firing these guys?
He's fired. He's fired.
Absolutely. I agree with it 150%.
They're paying these guys to do a job. They're not supposed to be involved in politics.
They're getting paid to do a job, and that's their job, is to play ball and do whatever the fans want them to do.
President Trump maybe should get involved in the games and maybe take a hit and get a concussion and see what happens.
So what would happen if you protested at your work site? What would happen to you?
I'd probably get canned.
I would be fired. I don't think they should get fired over it.
Does it affect how you see your team when you watch folks kneeling for the anthem?
Not at all, because I think that's separate from the game itself.
It's a wrong avenue, because just protest is not the way to do it. You have to have an avenue to make it better.
If they want to express themselves in that way, I think they have the right to, and I don't think they should be held accountable for anything.
Is there a point at which, as a fan, you would step away from the team?
Yes, I would. I'm sorry. It's disgusting.
I have stopped watching a lot of sports and football because of what happened last year.
I'm a Canadian, first of all, but I don't think that's... You have to respect the country you're in and the other people that are fighting for you. Why should you take a knee? I just don't get it.
Canadians out here rallying for the United States of America. Amen. It's good. Canadians love it.
Amen.
Thank you.
But ultimately, to a man and a woman, everyone said wrong forum. If you have a grievance with this country, policing or racial profiling, take it somewhere else. Don't do it during our nation's anthem, which should be a symbol of what unites us, not what divides us.
The president's approach was to get people to stand up and stop doing that. The result is, because this is a team aspect, not only do they have more people kneeling, he has owners now down on the field, who most of which voted for him or donated to him. So the whole thing boomerang. The plan did not work. sure.
Fair enough, but I think Villanueva, if you have one image that comes out of this, it's the one Army Ranger, 3 tours in Afghanistan, that says, Mike Tomlin, don't tell me I got to stand in the locker room. But I'm going to come out here, put my hand over my heart, and salute my country.
Right.
No, that's the enduring symbol.
That's an image, but it's not the only image.
You've got corporations, you've got players who play a game for a living and make millions of dollars. I think most average Joes, the forgotten men and women who watch these sports and go to these games, say, they don't represent me. I appreciate they can catch a pass, but I don't appreciate they won't appreciate my country.
Or Johnny Joey Jones, who served our country, lost his legs, and he said, I lost my legs so that other men could stand.
But you have to understand this. There's a reason why they're out there. They're the most uniquely talented. That's not a favor to put them in the NFL. They are elite athletes.
Of course.
5% of the people you see play on Saturdays only can play on Sundays. So you keep whittling down. That's a unique talent they have.
I agree. It doesn't mean I want to see politics from them.
Right.
Right. But I'm fine. But if the goal is to get them to stand up, Friday's speech did just the opposite.
Maybe, but it's a free country, and the president's entitled to his opinion, and he spoke for a lot of people.
Sure. And the players have been standing for a year now.
Yeah.
And you know, what the NFL has done essentially is just said, you can do whatever you want to, players. We're not going to stand in your way.
It'll be interesting to see where this goes.
It will. All right,
Thanks,
Peter,
Peter.
thank you.
And
The
thank
NBA
you for serving our
handled it great. The NBA handled it great. The NBA said before the season, stand for the anthem, but when it comes down to your personal causes, we'll support you. But whatever you do, stand for the anthem. They got ahead of it. The NFL still is not ahead.
Goodell has mumbled this for sure.
All right, some other headlines this morning. A fighter jet pilot plunges to his death in front of a horrified crowd. We warn you, some may find this disturbing. I think all of us find that disturbing. That's terrible. Thousands watching in horror as the jet crashes into the sea at an air show south of Rome. According to the Italian Air Force, the pilot could not get enough liftoff after finishing a loop. And ISIS has a brand new target, Britain's Prince Harry. The terror group releasing a chilling new video featuring a fighter from Singapore telling the royal, quote, come fight us if you're man enough, saying he will be sent to hell. The video in response to Harry speaking out against terror on a recent trip to Singapore. Prince Harry spent 10 years in the British Army and served on the front lines in Afghanistan. New York City's mayor, Bill de Blasio, knows what happened to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. De Blasio telling the author of the new book, The Pragmatist, that if Clinton listened to him and other progressives, she could have won.
Oh.
De Blasio saying, I thought she would eventually take a stronger position on income inequality. She could have generated more support if she had taken a stronger stance and done it sooner.
Right. And then he took a nap because he sleeps all day. He goes to work at 11 and then takes a nap with the newspaper on his head.
But he is awake enough to screw things up.
Yes.
Just saying.
Thanks, New York City. All right, 18 minutes before the top of the hour. Puerto Rico absolutely devastated by Hurricane Maria. Thousands of people running out of key supplies like food, water, and fuel. Geraldo Rivera is live on the ground with a look at the recovery as well as a look at how his family's doing.
And the anthem protests aren't hurting the NFL's bottom line just yet, but you are already paying for it. Stuart Varney's here to explain. Coming up next.